Um, all right, Lois, are you there?
I am.
All right, you want to turn on your video? All right.
Okay.
So we have now this is we're getting into our really fun time, which is our um, rapid fire talks. So I love these rapid fire talks because I still think that I've seen very few bad rapid fire talks in my life, and that's because um, there is a structure that we're going to have to follow here. So right now what you're seeing is you're seeing me test the slide to see if the difference between max and PCs, if the second is in the first, the seconds, like as in seconds is in the first or the second column, because the slide will either take 15 minutes to change or 15 seconds. 15 seconds, okay. So I got it the right one, so we're good. So the way this is gonna work is it's gonna be 5 minutes, 20 slides, that's 15 seconds per slide. And our first person up is going to be Lois Lupica. And Lois, you get to you get a special spot in our program, and that you get to be the first one to do this. And I think you're also the first time we've had a remote rapid fire talk. And so what's going to happen here is for the people online, I've now just made it so you can see the slide decks as well. And so it actually, I know this is hard to believe, but it works out technically better if Lois is here on a screen by herself and the slides are going to be on this next deck. So Lois, are you ready?
I am.
All right. There is a bit of a lag. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the slides going. I believe you can see them now on Zoom, or at least you can see this desktop that will soon be covered.
I can see yeah, yes.
I will start the slides going. It will take over that desktop. It will stick on this rapid fire talk slide for 15 seconds, and then it will go into your slides, and they will change automatically every 15 seconds. And you can use the Zoom to help set your pace. And we will just assume that anything you miss is because of the lag. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good. We'll try it.
All right, here we are. Experimenting and ready. 15 seconds, counting down from now.
Okay, I guess I'll get started. So my rapid fire talk is on designing for deployability. Okay, so the problem that I am addressing with this talk and the tool that I'm going to be talking about is that 88% of all tenants in eviction cases are unrepresented. They fail to file an answer, which means they default. And many of these tenants have defenses, they just didn't know it. So we recognize a significant difference between accessing information and deploying information. So imagine a legal services website with lots of great information about eviction law, but the tenant is still left with the question of, what do I do? Now imagine a typical eviction-related doc assembly tool, the kind that presents tenants with a long series of questions before producing a legal document. They have to fill in dates, dollar amounts, case numbers. Many of these questions have their answers buried somewhere in the notices they receive from their landlord. These types of self-help tools are available but not deployable. So with funding from GitLab, we are building an AI agent sidecars to our rules-based tool, MyReply. And MyReply breaks down barriers to deployment by acknowledging the stress, anxiety, and reduction. It uses advanced organizers, progress bars, visuals, not as decoration, but as explanation. We write for the 5th grade, plain language, then explain and let the tool do the legal work. We focused intensely on cognitive load, simple language as active translation. It's in 5 different languages, complies with accessibility guidelines, and OCR system reads court documents. We have voice-to-text features. We use graphics and UX principles to ensure ease of use. We prioritize privacy, confidentiality, and accuracy. We communicate legal uncertainty rather than false confidence, and we detail how the system reached its conclusion. The tool understands the rhythm of eviction timelines. The database, the RAG database, has been developed from hours of interviews with housing lawyers, questions asked by thousands of clients, answers offered by experienced attorneys. So here's a quick demo. Opening screen tells the user what the tool does, what it can and cannot do. The user is then given the opportunity to tell their story. As they would in a clinic or first attorney meeting, the information is used by the RAG system to provide context and arrive at guidance. The tenant then scans its notice, summons, and complaint and any other document it receives. The OCR reads these documents, populates relevant fields, and dramatically reduces the user's cognitive load. It saves the user from stressing and searching for unfamiliar information in an alien-looking document. MyReply then asks the user a series of questions, one at a time, with some instances follow-up questions, and digs from a database of 140 defenses and presents them to the user with what the law says, the strength of the defense, the rationale, and the proof. MyReply, after getting all of the defenses lined up, generates a fully complete answer, which is ready to be filed. So then once that all information is there, the RAG agent goes into analysis mode, helping the tenant decide whether to file the answer or sign a stipulation. So context-specific risks of each course of action are presented, and then the tool provides legal advice about the advised course of action. The decision is ultimately made by the user. In Colorado, digital tools can give legal advice under our recently adopted non-prosecution policy. So once the tool offers the advice as to whether to file an answer or to sign a stipulation, so let's assume they decided that they should file an answer, then they are the user has to negotiate with the landlord. And so the system does a case assessment, generates a letter, and then gives the user the next piece of information in terms of the timeline and as to what they have to do next. MyReply will be a free tool available. We have a plan to get MyReply into every tenant's hands who need it in the state. We have a massive advertising campaign that is underway, and I am under time. So thanks very much.
All right, there we go. And there's the thank you. Wonderful. Lois, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so setting the bar high. Next up, Debbie Ginsberg. That, or I can give you this handout.
Oh, handout, thank you.
Where are you going to stand?
Where's it stand? Hold on. First, apparently I have to tie shoes because I'm in kindergarten. I'm just going to walk across the stage.
Hello.
All right, just a second.
Okay.
I'm going to
This
set
way I
that
can
up
see
so that
my slides. I can see all you all.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that the folks online were going to be able to see you.
That's important.
And let's actually, since you're going to be with your slide deck, we'll do it just camera only. You can see it behind. All right, are you ready?
I think so.
All right, 15 seconds for this first slide, and then it will zoom into yours.
Okay. All right. Be sure to log in if you haven't already. I'm going to be talking about storytelling and why storytelling is important to understand what's going on with any sort of issue that you're thinking about with AI. I always think about the big issues, and I'm not doing Claude Code for lawyers, but I'll pretend I am. I'm doing something else.
So I unfortunately started, at parties, sometimes you do something called slide deck karaoke, and where you just show someone else else's slides and you just go with it. And so we have inadvertently started our slide deck karaoke. So let me change that.
Nope.
And the problem, you know what the problem was?
Yeah, there's. No, that's not it either. Where's mine?
I know it's there. The problem is that where?
That's all the drawings I did.
Oh, you know what? It's funny because this is a cloud-based document, and so what ended up happening is I changed them, but it did an update here. So
yay!
But we're ready. So slide deck karaoke. Maybe we'll do that upstairs. Oh, it'll be so much fun. All right, you ready?
I don't think that lawyers should be using Claude. They should. No, okay. All right. So yeah. So when I'm thinking about it, I might think of different kinds of stories that might tell of things that are positive. Great. Some stories that might tell of things that are problems, and maybe sort of in between. So today I'm going to tell you the story of 3 different people who will show up at some point and sort of what they think of it. So we've got Sasha, who is an attorney, and Sasha has been using AI for a while, and she's really managed to incorporate it. Zoe's a paralegal, and they're struggling a bit. And Jean is a law librarian, and he's trying to see the big picture, but is struggling in a place where it's just constantly changing. So Sasha loves her AI. She uses it all the time. She'll come up and tell you all about it. Zoe will sit in a bar and tell you about how much they hate it. And Jean will do presentations about, well, it can do this, and maybe it can do that, but I'm not too sure. So let's tell Sasha's story. She's been using her AI as a partner a few years. We'll say it's a few years in the future, and it can actually do things. And she's found that for her practice, it's become invaluable. It can do all kinds of things, from research to helping with organizing her schedule, handles billing. She loves that. She doesn't track that anymore. And, there's the idea that we're going to give up our ability to think, but she's using AI as a thought partner, going back and forth, using it to come up with all kinds of ideas. It's really been the tool that it's been promised to be as far as Sasha's concerned. She gets better outcomes from her clients now. They're very happy. She has less wasted overtime. She's able to capture all those moments of billing that she wasn't able to catch before. And because it's the future, her AI is not an environmental disaster. They've solved that problem. So she doesn't have to feel like, she's wasting anything while doing that. This gives her more time for strategy, which she loves, and she has more time for pro bono and access to justice work. She's a firm attorney, but now she has time, and she loves to cook, so she's going to have more time for cooking as well. She is really happy with her AI. Zoe, on the other hand, is a paralegal, and they do not like it. AI is constantly getting in their way. It's constantly wrong. It's constantly hallucinating, even a few years later. They wish they had alternatives, but it's sort of what is expected. It's because her firm has rules that say, we expect a certain amount of your work to be produced by AI. And if they don't make the metrics, they're in trouble. They're constantly having to correct schedule issues that the AI does. And because they're using something like Claude, sometimes it creates a mess of their files and they're not happy with it. Moreover, as a paralegal, Zoe's job does not always involve AI. They have to make calls. They have to do hands-on work for court prep. And they're not getting a lot of recognition for the stuff that's not AI. AI has become so important, and they feel underappreciated because their work is not part of AI. Could they get another job? Many, but a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, with AI, who needs a paralegal? Yet Zoe went to school to be a paralegal, and they're still paying off debt. Meanwhile, because paralegals don't get paid so much, they have to live near a local data center, and it's loud. John is a law librarian, and he lives in a place where AI, even though it's the future, is still not quite there. It's not. As a librarian, he's struggling to figure out where it fits within what he thinks his students ought to know. So, he may teach it, but updates are frequent and unpredictable, particularly in Lexis and Westlaw. It has incremental improvements that sometimes he finds hard to get across to his students. Because it's Lexis and Westlaw, he actually has to have materials talking about those things, can't be agnostics, and he has to revise his materials. He finds things may work one week, not the next. It's the future, so it's become really, really good at text analysis, but even in the future, AI can't count. And the costs of AI, because it's currently being subsidized, keep increasing. Like Sora's gone, and now other things are gone too. He hears that human level's coming soon. So it's always something in the future that people are working for. Oh, it's going to be better for the environment tomorrow. And sometimes it seems useful, and sometimes it looks like a solution looking for a problem. So he's always wondering what is going to happen next. So all these stories tell us something that we can be thinking about as we're considering how AI might work in our lives. If AI was a partner, what would it mean? What is AI as a threat? And how do we strategize when it's constantly in flux? These are the kind of questions we want to think about. So Sasha has a strategy. She knew how to fit AI within her practice and was able to make what she needed to do happen because she had some plans and was able to execute them with an AI that was cooperative. Zoe, on the other hand, is a little bit more struggling, and she's very cautious because AI is not fitting in her work life and it's not fitting within her home life either. And there's some drastic consequences for both of those things. So again, if we think about AI, what are the positives going to be? And for Zoe, what are the negatives going to be for their situation? Meanwhile, Jean is always living in an area of uncertainty, and this is something that we've come across a lot when we think about AI. What is going to happen? What are the costs going to be? What are the benefits going to be? It's a technology, it lives in a technology space. What does that mean? And John's constantly thinking about it and what it means. And using these stories, we can look at the different paths and we can look for solutions that respect our time, that allow us to plan. But really what we want to be doing is navigating, because I think it does come down to that uncertainty that Jean sees every day. But using these stories, we can have a path to help us move forward.
I do appreciate that people aren't actually dropping the mics because they're very expensive. I think so. Maybe if you drop maybe the cushions. So next up, we'll now go back. Toma Officer will, I believe, talk about Cloud Code for lawyers. Do you? What mic do you want? Okay. Yep. All right. You're right. You want me to give you 15 seconds going into it?
Yes. Hello. Quick shout out once again to Jonathan Pyle. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Doc Assemble. 10 years ago, I co-founded a company on top of that, and thank you very much for that. I'm going to talk about Claude Code for lawyers. I do think lawyers should be using Claude, but what I hope to be talking about are just some general ideas about using AI that I think is applicable no matter what the tool you're using is. You've seen these headlines, I'm sure. It's going to be coming up in a sec. Claude's legal plugin caused a sell-off of legal tech public stocks they called the SaaSpocalypse. This Claude native law firm Twitter article got 4 million views, I think, in 24 hours. It was at 8 million when I, or 7.8 when I took this picture. So there's a loud conversation, and a perfectly fair response, to be honest, is so what? I think you have enough on your plates and you don't need this as well. I think Joseph Campbell said it about myths. I'll say about AI, you don't learn it because it's important. You learn it because you're curious about it. And if you're curious about it, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It can provide some very interesting effects to a lawyer's lifestyle. So I'm going to be talking about Claude 101. Again, just general ideas about using AI. I'm going to be telling you about what I see in the wild. I help lawyers use AI. I hope to start a little conversation about the business model and then end with what's next. So bear with me, I'm sure you all know this, but there's a very big difference between just simply prompting an AI and then prompting an AI well. Summarize this lease agreement is a novice use of AI. This very extensive prompt shows a level of professional expertise. Similarly, a forever thread, though this might no longer be true, is not a very good way to use AI. A better way is to, this is a technical term, mount an agent on a folder, but really you're just running AI on top of a folder. I talk to a lot of lawyers, they're not interested in opening up a terminal, and what I tell them is, look, there's a lot of different products out there that have this similar concept where you start with a folder and you run an agent on top of it. Claude Cowork is Claude Code in a trench coat. The amazing thing about this is it will introduce to you a new concept of using a computer where talking to an AI can manipulate all the files in that folder. It can also use apps that that folder might have access to. And so you might talk to a folder that has access to your email and calendar and ask a question like, what do I need to focus on this morning? And then taking it the final step is recognizing that other people have done a very good job creating these fantastic prompts. This is the idea of skills. Whether they're your colleagues or people you don't know, you don't necessarily have to be an excellent prompter. You just have to know how to ask a good enough question to find a skill to use someone else's excellent prompting skills. Okay, so what am I seeing in the wild? Everyone, all the lawyers I talk to are scared of being this person, submitting some court filing with a made-up case, famous, I think if you're online half as much as I am, you saw that like another famous legal research provider allowed a hallucination to slip through. I think there's a very big difference between staying up late and checking citations and using AI product to help you scan through the citations. This reminded me a lot of the green text in DocAssemble. If you could just hover over a citation to get a sense of what it's being pulled from, you can spend a lot less time doing the administrative task. I thought there were not a lot of people talking about this, and I met these two fantastic people here. There is a ton of cognitive load to a knowledge worker, which lawyers are, before they can get to their actual work. I love Cal Newport's idea of deep work. And with AI, we can get to a calendar that looks like something more like this. You offload all these administrative tasks, not so that you can unburden yourself of your responsibility to be a lawyer, but so you can spend more time focused on the things that your license is encouraging you to do. Business models. This slide might be a little bit out of order, but can you imagine a lawyer telling you, don't worry, I didn't use any AI. We did hours of depositions, and I myself transcribed every single one of those. Don't worry, I billed you for the whole thing. You would probably report them to their bar. However, there's a paradox how clients feel about value-based pricing. There's an econ parable. Imagine a plumber comes to your house, your door's locked, it takes him 2 minutes, and he charges you $100. You say, that's way too expensive. Another plumber comes and says, this is going to take me 10 hours. You see him sweating and working. He says, that'll be $1,000. You say, oh, that's a great deal. I was told that not a lot of people know this parable, but the lawyers need to be the Picasso in this parable. You come up to a lawyer, I mean, you should be confident in saying, yes, it didn't take me 2 minutes, it took me my whole career. The way I use AI is different than the way you would use AI. So what's coming next? Running an agent or any AI on top of folders was happening today. Tomorrow, what's coming next is this idea of running an agent on top of a computer. A folder is just a computer is just a bigger folder. I'm talking about OpenClaw. This is the most popular open source software ever. Some security 101, just to get it out of the way, because again, I talked to lawyers about this and they're like, absolutely not. You can think about it like another individual. You wouldn't give them access to your whole computer. You wouldn't give them permissions to do anything. And more importantly, you wouldn't allow other people to prompt them. If you're interested in getting started with this, I would say start small and think again about those administrative tasks that don't touch on legal work, but free up your time to do more legal work. You're a litigator working on a huge matter. Perhaps you spend your money just trying to reorient yourself. This is something that could be done with the help of an assistant. AI could make being a lawyer more satisfying and impactful. I'm super interested in that conversation. You can find me at legaltechcoach.com.
All right, now we are hitting it. This is a hot room. Thank you. All right, next, Darrell Malone Jr. I saw you back there. And now this working with this new order. Oh, you know what? This is going to be one of those things where like it's in an update from the, so I'm going to say don't save. And I know it exists. I wasn't. But, well, I mean, first I did to make sure it's loading. No one. Probably. Let's see. There it is. All right. Now the only thing about this is I'm not here. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to download it just to make sure we've got the timing right, because I don't trust the. I don't trust the timing. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that our transitions are set to what I think they should be. They are not. And really wants to think about this. Oh, I see. I've got it twice. Let's do this. All right, it's not a tech conference without 5 minutes in the slide decks. All right. All right, looks like this has the right timings. I'll just make sure that's applied to all. I think we're even going to get the right order now. So there we go. Wonderful. All right, you want to go right into the right into it? You're going to stand here? All right. Darrell Malone.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Darrell Malone. I'm a software engineer and product developer by trade. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I started a nonprofit called the National Police Data Coalition. This has been kind of a side project of mine over the years. I started it as an open source project to develop a tool that would create more transparency around police accountability data. As you can imagine, based on the timing, there were certain things going through my mind at the time. I had a theory that we were probably, based on the politics of the country and the economic trajectory, heading towards an inexorable, slide towards more authoritarianism. And yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't disappointed. And so this project was really designed as a way to kind of act as a counterweight and really help the community come together and find ways to solve this issue, right? The whole concept behind the project was we have these disparate sets of data all across the country. And so can we develop something that would help that data be coalesced and harmonized into something that's really useful at a national level? So a part of that is that harmonization, making sure that, if we know there's a sergeant in New York, we can compare that to a sergeant that's in Illinois and make that comparison, make the different names for allegations all fit the same. And then also create a way for eventually people in the community to submit that data into the system. So it wasn't meant to just be an open source project in the sense of code, but also open source intelligence in the sense of data kind of feeding back into the system from the community. So that being said, there's basically 4 types of data that we're looking at collecting and indexing with this system: employment records, complaints, lawsuits, and news reporting. All of this to create as complete a picture as we can of the data that we have about police activity. We have a couple of current sources in the version that is online right now. So one of those being New York City's open data. This contains data about employment records and complaints within the city of New York. And then the second major source is the Invisible Institute's National Police Index. So this contains employment records from states all across the country. Right now we have Illinois, California, and Texas included in this initial batch. We have a number of sources that are going to be, being added as we kind of move forward. The official launch of the index is tomorrow, but we are planning to, as the thing matures, add data from the Massachusetts Post Association, LA Times. We have some independent journalists who have been interested in submitting data into the system. And that list I expect to grow and grow as we move forward, just from us building more systems for inputting data into the system, but also from people in the community if they have their kind of pet data sets or data sets from their city, from their state, that they want to put into the system. Because it's open source and because it's built in a way that has this kind of extensibility in terms of how the data can be input into the system, the idea is that over time, this starts to grow and really encompass the entire United States. This is available now. You can go to the website, dev.nationalpolicedata.org. Eventually tomorrow that should switch over to app.nationalpolicedata.org, and you can see how that's working right now. Basically, the way it's working currently, there's two modes. You can come in, you can do a search. You can search right now for an officer or an agency, or just do a basic text search. We'll try to find its best guess of what you're looking for. And once you've found something specific that you're looking for, you can drill down to a limited extent currently. You can kind of get an overview of, a particular person, see what their record looks like. If you're looking at a police department, you can do a search for the different officers, different units that exist within that department. And eventually this will expand into being able to look at insights, being able to look at data readouts of how that really plays out, being able to compare like to like. So compare an officer to another officer, compare an officer to others in their unit, in their department, and really start to ask and answer some of those legal questions around, is there something actionable here for whatever matter it is that you're looking into? We'd love to have your feedback. Definitely send an email if you have any interest or any questions about what we're doing. But yeah, that's the thing.
Darrell's been coming for 2019. We're just remembering a hackathon we did back then. Fun times. Well, not fun time. I mean, fun times in service of taking care of really bad wrongs. But it is nice to be in the trenches with folks. Except trenches are horrible. It is nice to have people who you can work together to try to make things better. Yeah. Next up, Kara Peterson about being confidently wrong. All right. That's fine. Ready to just go?
Hi everyone, I'm Kara Peterson. Fun fact, I had my baby shower in this room and my son is now a freshman in college. So there you go. Okay, so I'm here to talk about what I think is the most dangerous legal AI failure mode, not the obvious things like hallucinations, but persuasive analysis that is wrong. In legal work, the costly failure is an answer that sounds confident, feels usable, and quietly increases downstream verification burden. Legal users do not, let's wait for it to turn. See, I talk too fast. So legal users do not need just text that reads well or is sycophantic or sounds good. They need reasoning that is correct, defensible, and easier to verify. So our question, so we decided to study this ourselves. Our question was whether a purpose-built legal system like Describe and general purpose models produce meaningfully different reliability profiles on a controlled legal reasoning benchmark. We often get asked as the sort of fourth legal research tool out there besides the big three, we often get asked how are you different than the big three, which is a different question, and also how are you different than the foundation models. We use commercially available NCBE, MBE style questions. We weren't the first to do this, but we were the first to also test legal reasoning, not just whether you were right or wrong. All systems were tested under standardized no external web conditions. Each question was run independently, and the evaluation used blind scoring. So we measured not just, as I mentioned, whether you got it right or wrong, or whether the model got it right or wrong, but whether the output identified the governing rule correctly and applied it to the facts. In other words, we graded legal reasoning, not just choice. The comparison was against our new tool called Describe LM, against ChatGPT 5.2, Claude Opus 4.5, Claude's getting a lot of shout outs today, and Gemini 3 Pro under the same benchmark constraints. And of course, the models are always improving, so take that with a grain of salt. On this benchmark, Describe LM answered all 200 questions correctly. We actually wished it got a couple wrong because it does sound a little hard to believe, but it was what it was, so we have to go with that. The general purpose models missed between 13 and 23 questions. So what got more interesting, at least to me, was the reasoning quality, which was quite different between a purpose-built tool. We believe this could be extrapolated to all purpose-built tools, not just Describe LM, as long as they're built well, versus the legal reasoning scores. You can see the range there of 89 to 93% or so for the general purpose models. So across 200 questions, there were 40 unique questions missed by at least one general purpose model. In other words, not everything was flagged as incorrect by the different tools. Only one question was missed by all 3 general purpose models, which means model disagreement is not a reliable tiebreaker. In other words, sometimes I'll ask Claude to check what OpenAI says and things of that nature. It's not going to save you. So when the general purpose models were wrong, they were usually wrong in a very polished, assertive, and well-structured way. In other words, they were confidently wrong, which is the name of the paper that we wrote. Among the 52 incorrect outputs, 49 were flagged confidently wrong, because we also had flags for how the data you could interpret the data. 42 involved the wrong rule, and 32 involved a misapplied rule. So the part I find most interesting is that the most common failure was not gibberish or things like inventing cases from the future in your citations, which has happened. It was applying the wrong legal doctrine to the facts while still sounding like competent legal analysis. You can imagine how hard that is to differentiate when you're just looking at this output. General purpose models also showed overconfidence flags on some correct outputs, including describe. We had a couple of those ourselves, which matters because a system that sounds equally confident when right and wrong gives practitioners less signal and less. I'm not even talking about pro se people at this point, but that's a whole separate thing. General purpose models also, this does not tell us everything about real legal work, of course, like the lawyers in the room do not sit there and do multiple choice questions in practice. The MBE style was what we could sort of use as something that had an input and an output that we could judge independently. Because the questions, the perfect score should invite scrutiny. I mentioned that before. Any vendor-led white paper should also invite scrutiny when you're looking at your own tools. That's going to be something people should question. So we tried to put all of our information out there so people could test it. Because this question set is commercially available, we encourage other tools to do the same type of testing and see how they do. We certainly invite all the big ones to do the same thing. So my closing argument and my broader point of doing this work, which was incredibly intense and weeks and weeks and weeks of work, is that in legal AI evaluation, we should weigh correctness, verification burden, failure severity, and reasoning quality at least as heavily, if not much, much heavier than writing quality. And my last sentence is that's exactly what we built. Describe LM checks whether cited cases are real, current, accurately quoted, and generally support the points they were cited for. So it goes beyond just checking for hallucinations. No prompting needed, and our Claude and ChatGPT plugins are coming soon, so you can make Claude actually work. Thank you.
Where I just got to feel like I got to connect the dots, and I think Bob covered this on his law sites recently.
Yeah.
All right. This is a really fun thing to say, so I've got to try to land this properly. Are you going to be ready to go when I'll give you up room? All right, this is a really fun thing to say because of everything that's gone on today and how many times his work has been referenced. Someone who needs no introduction, Jonathan Pyle. 15 seconds from this.
The only time I'll ever be able to give a presentation cat here is to have the associated program. So anyway, my name is Jonathan Pyle, as you know.
I'm going to restart it. Just
Oh, sorry.
Don't have any weird time things. Okay, are you ready? You can either do here or I can give you a hand.
No, that's all right. I'm an attorney with Philadelphia Legal Assistance. Do you need to press the thing? Sorry about that. I'm an attorney with Philadelphia Legal Assistance, a legal aid organization in Philadelphia. In our local courts, low-income people are parties in high-volume court case types like mortgage foreclosure, eviction, and child custody. And our funding only allows us to assist a fraction of the low-income litigants going through these systems. So when I started working in legal aid 18 years ago, I was very excited about the possibility of building web-based client-facing tools for self-represented litigants. I applied for a grant to use Hot Docs and HJ Author to develop web apps that create family law pleadings. But as somebody who has computer programming experience, I felt constrained by the limitations of those tools, which made it easy for non-techies to develop simple form-filling web apps, but I thought that to really address the access to justice problem, we needed a platform that could do the more complex things that only code can do. So starting in 2015, on my nights and weekends, I developed a free and open source platform called DocAssemble for building web apps that conduct a guided interview and assemble legal documents. My idea was that attorneys could learn rudimentary Python coding and specify legal rules in Python code. I don't know if that really worked out the way I thought it did. And while they're writing rules in Python code, they can also indicate how questions should be asked and prepare document templates. And then DocAssemble would figure out how to conduct the interview and assemble the documents. I included advanced language features so that attorneys could compose a single document template that produced grammatically correct sentences with the correct use of plural, singular, male or female pronouns, etc. I also made available in the system a machine learning platform in case attorneys wanted to classify users' answers to open-ended questions. So this all appears rather quaint in light of what large language models can do. There's no question that LLMs can do the more complex things that I wanted interview platforms to do, which raises the question, have LLMs rendered platforms like DocAssemble completely obsolete? Today, you could give AI a form document, explain the law to it, and then ask it to have a conversation with the user and create a document based on the form, like I'm doing here with LibreChat. So the task of building a web app for document assembly is about the same as training a paralegal to do the same thing. And just as you would need to supervise a paralegal, you would need to supervise the AI and provide the AI with additional instructions to do this, don't do that, if it makes mistakes. But there are downsides to this approach, because some percentage of the time the AI might hallucinate facts or law, deviate from the form you gave it, or provide legal advice violating the unauthorized practice of law statute. Many of these problems can be minimized with additional instructions, but at a certain point, it just becomes inefficient to keep yelling at the AI some more when it randomly disregards your instructions. So in the near future, I think there's a middle way for producing legal web apps where you can get the best of both worlds. Use AI as a tool within an otherwise rules-based app. Instead of outsourcing to AI the entire task of conducting the interview, you write non-AI rules for the straightforward parts and then use an interactive AI process for particular parts. In the pre-LLM days, there were situations where you'd want to give the user a big text box along with some instructions, ask the user to write some paragraphs, and then insert the user's paragraphs into the pleading, but you'd worry whether the user was saying the right thing. These days, you can instead write a prompt for an LLM, let the LLM ask the user some probing questions, and then the LLM composes a well-written paragraph with the relevant information. And since this LLM is only responsible for doing a very discrete task, you can give it extremely strict guardrails without interfering with its functionality. And if the user tries to change the subject, the LLM can abort. When the LLM only has a discrete task to perform, there's much less risk that it will practice law. Although based on what I heard today, people don't care about that anymore. An example of this might be a web app that prepares a motion to postpone a sheriff sale. You can use rules written in code on the left-hand side to determine which legal ground the user wants to rely on, and then use AI to ask probing questions of the user to determine the factual basis for that legal ground. And the document template will work just like a regular rules-based document template with most of the information provided directly by the user, but instead of inserting user-composed narrative text, you can insert AI-composed paragraphs. So as the maintainer of DocAssemble, I've been working on developing tools for easily incorporating interactive AI conversations into interviews. And my hope is that compartmentalized uses of AI like this will allow attorneys to create sophisticated web apps while keeping the UPL regulators happy in the states where they actually do anything. And also providing the attorney with peace of mind that their chatbot isn't going to go off the rails. Thank you very much. And thank you, Clinton, for
I do imagine what it's going to be like, 5 years from now when we look at the photo rolls from this, and everyone's wearing these cat ears, and I'm going to be trying to explain what's going on there. We are, and this is one of the things I love about this conference, it is exactly 4 o'clock, which means we have hit our schedule. So there's a reception and the awarding of the Lit Impact Award will be taking place after this. So please do join us upstairs where we will be celebrating Catherine Alternator and giving our second ever Lit Impact Award. I started off the day by saying that I think what we should do is do work that makes us proud. And I look back on this day and I just think how proud all of you should be. Let's go upstairs. And for the people online, you will have a lot of not fun stuff to look at for a while, but we will eventually come back into the feed with the Impact Award.